Hi, everybody. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. Great to be with you from Los Angeles. I did take a little bit of a break on the Plant-Based Business Hour. After COP28 in Dubai, I spent 3 weeks in Indonesia and 5 weeks in Sri Lanka and 3 weeks in India. I thought, well, I don't really have a public speaking schedule that kicks off until March. So I'll try this digital nomad thing. And I have to tell you, it was great. It was wonderful. It's just so easy to get internet in a beach hut. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of months. So I haven't been doing as many live broadcasts as I would like, but I am now back in the groove. And I have to say, today's guest is someone that I have been pursuing for a very long time because he is an example of what to do to build your business successfully for a robust acquisition. So I'm going to bring on, I'll see if I can throw in my French accent. I'm going to bring on Yves Potvin.
Potvin, oui, c'est bien, c'est bien.
J'ai habité à Paris. Je
Ah
ne vous
oui,
ai pas dit, mais j'ai habité à Paris. I'm not going to speak French the whole interview, everybody, but I have my French roots and as well. And Yves, of course, is from French-speaking Canada. So it was as fun as it could be to talk about Canada and France. Today, we're going to be talking about food, which, of course, works for the French culture. And really, we're going to be talking about the companies that Yves has built. So you might know him best for Yves, Veggie Cuisine. He did sell that to Hain Celestial. Now, one huge success would be enough. But then he went on to create Gardein, and he did sell that to Conagra. Again, 2 successful exits, that might be enough. He has now started Conscious Foods. So before we get into what to do and what not to do to have a successful acquisition, I want to ask you, why did you could have kicked back. Why did you decide to start Conscious Foods?
you know, it's an interesting question. I've been asked this question many times. And I'm an entrepreneur. I love building business. I love people. And one of the reasons we started Conscious is I've built a couple of business, like you said, and it takes people to build business.
Yes.
You don't build a business by yourself.
No.
So you need a core team of people. I quite often use the analogy of if you're building a business, it's like climbing the Everest. And Sir Hilary said, you don't climb a mountain by yourself. And so it was actually, I was kind of semi-retired. I bought a cooking school in Vancouver. My wife and I were running the cooking school. And it was really people who've been with me for 30, 35 years, 25 years. We have did that on a regular basis. And they said, Yves, there's still a lot of work to do. Why don't we do it together? And so we brought the whole team together. Carlos has been with me for 35 years. Claire, 32 years,
Oh my gosh.
25, 28. And then so we brought the core team together, and then we start exploring where the white space, where is there opportunity, and what can we do with the skill that we have. But I might just add that it's interesting. Once you're an entrepreneur, you have a kind of a timeline. You're in your mid 60s. People say, okay, why don't you just retire on the beach right now? But if you're an architect or an artist, you can paint in your 90s. There's nobody saying, why are you not on the beach? So it's an interesting discussion to have. I love what I do, and I love being with people, and I think there's so much to do. That's why we launched Conscious.
Well, there is so much to do. Let me ask you, are you following a plant-based diet? Is this driven by white space or driven
I'm
by
a
you personally?
flexitarian, one of those guys that I would say most of my diet is plant-based, but I do eat the source of protein. And I think this is, I believe, one of the reasons that we've been successful is I believe food is like religion. You should respect every religion. If you're a Muslim, like you've been to India, you've been to a different part, especially the Muslim, they respect if you're not a Muslim, if you're Buddhist, they respect the Muslim, they respect all different religion. And I think food has to be like this, that, whatever your diet is your choice, as long as it's good for you. and it's good for the planet, etc. But everybody has to make their choice. So no, I'm not just on a plant-based diet, but I would say I'm a health conscious lifestyle, and I really care about the food I put in my body.
So Eve was your first business,
Yes.
and that was driven then primarily by white space back then, I would think, or were
You
you wanting to
know,
find an option?
I cycle across Canada. That's how I moved from Montreal to Vancouver.
Ah,
And in that journey, I was really asking myself, what's my spot? Where do I belong? And being a traditional, I study French cuisine. That was my background. And I was really incorporating more and more plant-based in my diet. And I started asking myself, what, where do I need to do in my life to fill the need? And we're talking the mid 80s right now.
you know.
And I came up with a crazy idea of developing a plant-based hot dog. At the time, there was 50 million hot dog consumed every day. And I said, and especially at the time, the hot dog were so bad quality and a lot of fat and preservative. So I said, it has to be a market if there's 50 million hot dog consumed per day. So it was really, again, the looking for what is their need in the marketplace. And I knew in my life, I didn't eat hot dog, but I love a good hot dog. So I said, I'm going to create one. So I was the first fresh veggie dog ever made in the marketplace.
Well, Eve's deli slices are one of my go-to.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love them, and I have to credit you with. I think it was 2021, maybe early 22. We said, "Oh, it's the year of chicken, plant-based chicken,"
Yes.
and nothing. And a lot of those businesses now have already folded, but nothing compares to the Gardein plant-based chicken breast.
Yes.
Nothing. So, as much as I love Eve's, and I do,
Mm-hmm.
Gardein really nailed it for the meat eater, I think,
Yes.
for the flexitarian. Eve's really nails it for the plant-based person, and maybe as well the meat eater, but Gardein really nails it for the flexitarian. And I wondered how much of a learning curve there was for you to
Mm-hmm.
really nail that taste and texture, which many businesses today still haven't done.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to say my first business is Veggie Cuisine. I was more in the deli slice, hot dogs, more in a deli item. Okay, I think that I saw the need there, and so when I sold the business in 2001, and I'd like to approach the decision about selling because somebody asked me that yesterday. So when you started East Veggie Cuisine, did you plan to sell it? I said no. For me, it was just a lifestyle. It was a decision to start a business and live with it. And I only decided to sell it in 2001 when I saw there was a lot of small company coming to the market and the quality was not. And I was afraid that there was going to be an E. coli or listeria scare, and then it would destroy the plant-based business. And having two kids, etc. And I had developed the know-how or the technology for Gardein. Gardein is a new food technology that we developed. It's called an extrusion technology. And extrusion, for people who don't understand, is like when you make fresh pasta, you extrude the dough into a pasta. Well, we develop a technology that extrude plant-based flours and protein into meat-like texture, like chicken, etc. And that was the beauty of Gardein. But it was not an early success right away. It took like 5 years to really scale up and get to the marketplace.
And did you focus on having particular IP that you can, as you said, you didn't start out thinking you would sell Eve's, and maybe you didn't start out thinking you would sell Gardein, but a successful exit is always helped by some proprietary IP. Did you have that with Gardein?
Sometime I give conference on that about IP. The challenge with food and patented technology, once you have the technology patented, there's many different ways you can go around the patent. It's not like, so once you show how you do it, so what we did was a trade secret, very much like Pepsi is a trade secret, Coke is a trade secret, the recipe. So we had a recipe and a know-how to create the plant-based fiber, and it was a trade secret. And then we were very, very careful who we brought in the plant. But you're right, when not Conagra, when Pinnacle bought Gardein. Pinnacle got bought by Conagra after.
Yes, I see.
It was they put a lot of emphasis on the technology we had developed. Unfortunately, for some reason, when they bought Gardein, they let go most of the R&D people and
Oh,
marketing people. And guess what? The technology then went to many different places. So it's an interesting decision that they had, but I didn't manage the business anymore. But yeah, we had a strong IP, and that was the value, I think, part of the value. Not only the value is always the brand and the distribution.
yes.
That's the value of a company. But IP really helps a lot too.
Well, let's talk about that. So you said when you started Yves, you didn't anticipate selling,
No.
and then it was 15 years plus. You had
Yes.
it quite a while. And were you approached by Hain Celestial, or did you approach them?
Not a good question. You know, I mentor a lot of entrepreneurs, and I tell them sometimes you sell when there's a buyer, and it's you have to be, the age that you transfer the business from generation to generation is very far gone, very difficult.
Yeah.
At the same time, Yves Veggie Cuisine, we grew 50% per year for 13 years in a row.
Wow.
So a growth like this is very cash hungry. Business is cash hungry. I didn't have any partner then other than bankers. I paid myself $25,000 salary for 12 years in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Because the business needed the cash. And it's like, I'm not sure if you have any kid, but if you don't have enough food, you're going to give it to your kid. And it's the same thing for a business. So, but there's a point in time, once you have to start having a real family and you don't have any cash, you say, what do you do? How do you, you need to make a living somewhere. And an exit is a good way. And especially for me, the first exit, I already had developed the next generation of product. So I bought the technology that I had developed at Yves Veggie Cuisine. I bought it before I sold the business.
Oh.
Because the Hain Celestial group had no idea how to commercialize that. They didn't know what was an extrusion. So I said, I'm going to buy it. And if I decide to start another business, I have this new technology that I can start. So, and having an exit really help, to put stability in your life.
Yes, sure.
Financially, especially.
Yeah. Well, I love that you say that it was nose to the grindstone for 13 years, paying yourself $25,000. We just went through this enormous boom in the plant-based sector where everybody was getting huge valuations and raising huge amounts of capital. And it just came too easy, too fast. And that was also with some big salaries. And, what goes up must come down. And I always tell people, it's not who's the smartest or even who has the most connections. It's who's willing to work the hardest and can make their money last the longest.
Mm-hmm.
And that ability to stretch that money and to be crafty all the way to the end, not just the first 3 years, but really all the way to the end, I think is a great lesson for people. Okay, now you said you didn't start with a roadmap, but now you've done it twice.
Yes.
Is there a roadmap? Can you see the parallel between the two businesses?
Well, yeah, there's definitely certain thing that you need in order to. You're talking about having an exit or having a successful business.
I think for many, they're one and the same. A successful business means you have a big exit. That could be an IPO. That could be an acquisition.
That's true. At the same time, like, Nature's Path in Vancouver hasn't had an exit, and they pass it to generation. And it's much more difficult to do that because you have to finance by the business. But yeah, is there a roadmap? Every business is different. Like every child you have is different. Every business is different. When I started Yves Veggie Cuisine, I was very lucky because, as a Canadian, there's an exchange. And the exchange was very favorable for the Canadian selling in the U.S. When I started my second business, the Canadian dollar was stronger than the U.S. dollar, so it was not as easy. And the third business, I would say, Conscious, it's a different world as far as marketing. 10 years ago, there was very little social media. And now the whole marketing is based on social media. So I would say every destiny, there's a different challenge for every business. But you have to be agile. You mentioned it's not the strongest, it's the people who can adapt that
I love that.
survive in business and can react quickly, adapt, change 180 degree on a dime. And it's this ability, because it's really finding what is the right formula, what's the right pricing, the consumer keep changing constantly. So you need to find who's the right customer that you're selling. What's the right price point? Gardein, we was more center of the plate than a deli item. So very quickly we found family became our consumer, because you were selling chicken nugget and they were bringing him as a family. I remember talking to somebody at one point, says, "Oh, I don't know your brand." Then I show him the package. Oh, he says, "We have this every Monday in our house."
Oh my gosh.
So they were flexitarian and they had meatless Monday.
Yeah.
And so but nothing beats hard work, surrounding yourself with the right people, and constantly bring innovation to the marketplace, I would say. And I think one of your questions you asked me earlier, you said, what is different well, I think what happened in the plant-based over the last 5 years, it's very similar to what happened in the .com in the 2000. Everybody was throwing money at the .com. You had an idea, it was worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think our industry suffered a little bit of the same consequence.
Yes, of course. So what is it that made you so successful 2 times in a row? And FYI, everybody, I have had Conscious Foods, and this is a slam dunk. We will get to the alternative fish market in just a second. We will get to Conscious Foods in just a second. But with Yves and Gardein, so many brands some don't have good products. So, okay, they haven't lasted, but some do have good products and they're still struggling. Is it that you were sort of alone then? There was maybe you and Tofurky?
That's a good observation. I'd like to say all the time that when you start a business, you have to ask yourself, are you the first? Are you the best? Are you different? Okay. So one of those three. And if you don't have two of the three, there's a good chance you won't succeed. Well, if you look at East Veggie Cuisine, I was the first, therefore the best and different. Gardein, I was not the first. There was Morningstar who had chicken nugget and thing like this. But we became very quickly, because of our know-how and our IP, we became the best. And we were different because we were like 7-grain tenders. We had a fishless filet that was like with a beer batter. It was really innovation that brought Gardein at the forefront of the market. And so this, I think, it's a lot of hard work. Gardein, we also lost money for 5 years in a row because it was a very expensive technology. Machinery are worth $1 million. I was financing that all by myself. Yeah. I wrote a check for hundreds of thousands every month to keep the company alive. So you need capital. Yeah. That's, I told my friend, I said, well, usually failure in business is lack of capital. Number one reason. He said, Yves, it's number one, number two, and number three. And so you need the capital, because if I didn't have the capital, Gardein would have not survived. Mm-hmm. And so this is the key, to have enough capital, because our break even was quite high because all the infrastructure was very expensive. So, it's being at the right place at the right time, surrounding yourself with the right people. But definitely part of the challenge now is that there's 8 chicken nugget on the marketplace.
Too many. That's great
space. And the person who was working with me before, he's in charge of an alternative dairy cheese, and he says I'm the number 5th brand. So it's a commodity basically, because the buyer has all the power, and he says, what are you offering me that the other 4 don't offer me? I want a price discounts. And that's the challenge, is you become a commodity.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So price, of course, something that the market really contends with today, but less so when you were
Yes.
first and different.
Yes,
And
exactly. But we were always trying to be price competitive,
sure.
and in at the Gardein time, it was we were not trying to get over $5. At Yves Veggie Cuisine was $3.99. Gardein was $5.49. So price is a key, and especially in the time that we live with inflation,
Yeah.
higher interest rate, people are looking at the money they spend very carefully.
Okay, but 3.99 in the 80s
Yeah, in
was
the 80s. Yeah.
was serious money.
Yes,
You know,
that's
that
true.
was
That's true. That's true because you could have bought a chicken hot dog for $1 a pound at that
yes,
time.
right. Yeah.
So we were much more expensive
Mhm.
than traditional hot dog, but the quality was so much better.
And did Pinnacle come to you, or did you go to
So
Pinnacle?
that's a question about my your first question about did ink. Well, when I realized, I was really concerned because we did some test in one of my competitors at the time, and we found some pathogen that could have made people sick. So I phoned that gentleman and I said, "You better recall your product because we always do tests on what's in the marketplace." And he says, "Well, you're my competitor." I said, "No, we're all in this together." And I said, if you get somebody sick, it's going to go nationwide and the whole plant base is going to be shut down for 6 months, like the spinach and like,
Yeah.
the lettuce. So after that incident, I decided I bought the technology. I'm going to sell the business. So I made and
Okay.
then you hired an investment banker,
Yeah.
and then you start going around. And Hain Celestial was one of the first company at the time to consolidate different company in the natural food. And so they were the acquirer of the business.
Yeah. Okay. And I had asked you that before, but I just wondered if it was a little different for Gardein.
Yeah,
Um,
Gardein, so what happened with Gardein is that at one point, uh, my idea of Gardein was to do an Intel Inside or Gore-Tex, a technology within a technology. Okay,
yeah.
so we had developed this amazing technology, and then so for 5 years I sold Gardein as a brand within a brand, to Morningstar, to Boca, to Kraft, to a lot of different brands. But big company are risk adverse. They don't want it. I had the whole product line. They didn't want to launch it. So in 2008, I decided I had to go back in a retail business and launch Gardein. Well, once, retail is a very expensive proposition. The
There.
slotting fee, the distribution, the discount, and it got worse. So I needed a war chest. And so I decided to join with a private equity. And so in 2008, I brought a private equity partner. And then in 2015, 14, the private equity says, okay, because
Yeah.
private equity have a 5 to 6 years horizon, triple their money and they go. So is it good? Is it bad? We were responsible, Gardein, for 75% of the growth of the plant-based business between 2000 and 2014. So we were ready to build a new plant, and it was too early to go in the public market. So when my partner said it's time to sell, I didn't have the capital to buy them out.
Yeah.
So we decided to do a book, and then we got some investment banker, and then Pinnacle was the lucky company that acquired Gardein.
Yeah, Pinnacle was lucky. So that was a little bit of a lost love there. You weren't
Yes,
100% ready to let it go. Gardein is so good. That
yes, it
product
is.
is so, so gosh darn good. Now, when you're telling me that you had the technology for extrusion,
Mhm.
I'll share my ignorance here. You didn't develop that first. That existed before you, correct?
Extrusion has been around for 100 years.
But used with other things like pasta. But I mean, for making alternative
Wet
meat.
wet extrusion is what's called wet extrusion. There's only about 1% of the extrusion that was commercialized. You can do dog food with wet extrusion, etc. But to create chicken fiber,
Uh-huh.
out of wet extrusion.
Incredible.
I mean, Beyond Meat said they were the first one. We were there first.
Yeah.
We were there in 2002 with that technology. To be the first in the world, I think I saw some in Europe. Nobody commercialized it
Mhm.
the way Gardein did. And everybody had their own recipe, etc. Extrusion has been around for a long time, but you know what makes the difference between a product that is good and commercialized? We developed this IP. Was I the only one? Probably not, but I'm the one who really commercialized, I think, Gardein on a big scale. When I sold Gardein, we were producing 100 tons of food a week.
Wonderful.
100 tons of food a week. We were running 24 hours, 7 days a week. 100 tons of food a week is 40 truckload per week.
Wow.
And selling at 25,000 supermarket. So it was definitely a successful brand.
Can I ask you, and this might be proprietary, so you don't have to answer if you can't, but can I ask you what your revenue was? Not your
We were on target to hit 100 million at that time. And then I think Gardein is about 250 or 300 right now. So,
million in revenue, not in profit. I'm talking about revenue.
Oh, profit, you know.
No, not in profit, revenue, just top line revenue.
Yeah.
So Beyond Meat would be bigger than that.
Right now it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gardein is the number 2 brand right now, or 3 in the marketplace. Yeah.
I throw that in because people don't, my listeners often don't understand the scale of Beyond. They'll make a mistake.
Beyond has scaled very quickly.
Oh my gosh.
They use co-packer, and we did all the manufacturing ourselves. So when you start using co-packer, you can scale up much faster.
And it's not an easy feat, and they've had scaling internationally. I just think it's sort of à la mode maintenant to.
No, there's a little bit of bashing right now of
it's just not necessary.
You know, and so there was an article in the Globe and Mail. It was sort of the New York Times of Canada, and a journalist came to interview me. She says, "This gentleman, who's one of the biggest CEO of the food business in Canada, said, oh, the plant-based was a fad and it's gone." And well, I said, this CEO, 98% of his portfolio is meat. So what is he going to say? Is he going to say plant-based is there to stay? They have some brand. They bought a couple of plant-based brand, but then they don't nurture them. They're just there.
Did they buy? Are you talking about Maple Leaf?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maple Leaf. Yeah.
Yeah. So the CEO was sort of bashing a little bit the plant-based, and I said, you have to be careful where it comes from, that information. And right now, I think the meat and the dairy industry sort of woke. They got awoke and they said, let's start bashing the plant-based. Oh, it's bad for you. It's too much chemical, etc. But we know long-term the plant-based will survive and thrive because it's just a question of, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and there's a better way to source the protein than the traditional protein.
Yeah, there's a cleaner way. There's a more efficient way.
Exactly. The question is that the plant-based is only a 40-year-old business.
Yes.
The dairy and the meat business is 400 years old.
And subsidized.
And highly subsidized, billions of dollars. So, if we start spending billion in R&D to transform chickpea and fava bean and lentil into form and shape that people are accustomed to, we will be very successful. And that's part of the reason Beyond Meat and myself and Impossible are pioneer in this field.
Yes.
And being pioneer is very difficult.
Although I'll say people often include Impossible when they talk about Impossible and Beyond, but you can't even begin to talk about them almost in the same sentence because Impossible has such smaller distribution, smaller runs, smaller numbers. I mean, I don't think people realize just how far Beyond has gotten and what scale they've gotten.
Well, maybe you have better information, but I know Impossible is private. Therefore, it's very difficult to know what the real number is. But I mean,
they can't enter Europe because of their technology. So they don't have the Europe market. They don't have the Asian market.
Oh, yeah, because of the GMO.
So just that alone. But okay, well, it is our great excitement to talk about Conscious Foods.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's so good. And
Mhm.
I didn't know that you were behind it until I said, this product is so good. I have to figure out who's making this.
Mm,
And lo and behold, I was like, well, of course it's good. It's the guy who did Gardein.
mm.
So, is it the white space in alternative seafood that attracted you, or what made you want to go for it? And I know you can't share your technology, but it is a very special product.
Well, so I just a lot of people think that fish is healthy for you,
Mm,
and so and it's less processed. And when my team and I got together, we start looking worldwide protein and consumption, etc. And we all know that in our lifetime, we're probably going to be driving an electric car
sure.
or an hydrogen car or something like this. Okay, the traditional engine, it's going to be a novelty 30 years from now. We also know that in our lifetime, most fish will be farm fish, and you read in science paper right now about farm fishing. There's good method and there's bad method, and so we start looking at, say, this is just white space that not a lot of players right now. And I have a cooking school, and one of my instructors is Japanese. So we start working. We bought actually a company that was doing plant-based uh, tuna, ocean hugger,
Oh,
and so the product was pretty good, but it was too expensive. Everybody complained it was like $15 a pound and the yield, etc. So, but we start making sushi with it, with my chef Katsu, and then I microwave it, and Chef Katsu says my kid would buy this product because it's convenient.
yeah.
Okay, and this is one of our challenge, because people say frozen sushi. Well, but once you look at it it's like everybody pretty much has a frozen pizza in
Yes.
the freezer. If you look at it that way, any time of the day or at night, you can. So we start exploring that avenue, and then and I would say, Gardein, we had Yves Veggie Cuisine. We use metal cellulose because metal cellulose is a replacement of egg white to bind the product. Gardein, we were using soy protein there's good and bad in soy protein, the perception, and we're using metal cellulose. And quite often the product was fried to give you that crispiness. I would say Conscious is the best work we've done because it's the cleanest product. It's the easiest way to assemble it. There's a lot of know-how in developing this texture of tuna, salmon, or snow crab. But the way we put it together, all the ingredients are non-GMO, organic when we can. It's a clean taste, and we're really delivering a convenience food that is good for you, good for the planet, with clean ingredients. So very excited about Conscious, Conscious with a K. People have
Yes,
to.
there it is. Let's see. Conscious with a K. Everybody listening on audio, we
And,
can see
and people say, why conscious? I say, well, quite often, this is a word I use in all my life because, apparently we're the only species that can make a conscious decision to improve their life, to bring their life to a better place. And, quite often, if you're unconscious, you're on the way to your grave, you're about to die. So I think a lot of consumer young people today are very conscious about the impact they have on the environment and the future of our society, our civilization and so I think it's a great brand, and it's recommend. For me, I want people to buy Conscious and say, "Oh, they've done the homework for me. I know it's clean. I know it's good. It's a brand I can trust."
hmm Well, you earlier said that distribution and brand are the key things. And again, you have launched a really strong brand, really clean branding, as well as
Mhm.
really clean label and fitting that white space. Now, just for everyone listening, are you only doing sushi? Or are you
No,
doing
so we
fillets?
have a whole line of product. We have onigiri, who's the triangle that you see in Japan usually. So we have 4 different kind of onigiri, kale gomai, roasted corn poblano. The best sellers are Korean shiitake mushroom barbecue and the Japanese curry. And we have 2 poke bowl, a salmon and a tuna poke bowl that comes with the rice and the cucumber, the marinade, and the sauce. And we're launching at Expo West. That's new. You're the only one who knows right now.
Wonderful. I will see you at Expo West.
Yes, we're launching kimbap. Are you familiar with kimbap?
It's Korean, kibimbap, right?
Yeah, kibimbap. Yeah, kibimbap. We came with the idea because sometimes innovation doesn't have to come from you. But, Trader Joe just launched a kimbap in August, and it went viral with 2 million hit, and they can supply the product. I was at Trader Joe trying to buy it this weekend. They're on allocation. By noon, it's sold out, and there's only 2 per person. So we look at it and we say, we have the machine, we can do this. And ours, I think, is better for you, cleaner ingredient. And ours come with a sriracha mayo with it. So he's got a nice little sauce. So I'm very excited to show that at Expo West. And we're also launching a smoked salmon at Expo West. So
and the Trader Joe's, is that a plant-based bibimbap?
I think so, although I'm not sure if they had egg or not. They had different variety. So I can't confirm because they were out of stock. But I saw the video of it, and I said, well, and Korean is so hot right now. I mean, Korean food.
Yeah.
And for us, the Korean barbecue onigiri is our bestseller. So it kind of pushed us to say, hey, and sushi should be eaten about at room temperature, ideally, 68 to 72. Kimbap, it's an easier product in a sense. You microwave, it could be eaten at 90 degree, at 50 degree, at 80 degree. It's got more flexibility. It could be eating hot or cold or medium if you want.
Yeah, it's really exciting because there's no one else in the space that I know of that's doing, and this is an area I think of growth. We'll talk about predictions in a second. An area I think of growth for the sector is bringing in more international flavors. So Korean, Japanese, Indian, Arabian, Middle Eastern. I think all these are really an opportunity to expand beyond the burger and the chicken nugget, which is good. Okay, so we're going to.
That's part of the challenge. I think what happened in the plant-based is that there's only so many chicken nuggets you can have on the marketplace, and there was some great brand there, but there's only so much of a market for it, and everybody kind of copied Gardein with the extrusion, etc. So the market need innovation.
Yeah, diversity and innovation. Of course, that's what drives the growth.
Yeah,
of course. Now, just in case folks aren't going to be at Expo West, where can we buy Konscious?
Oh, well, Konscious, we're going to be in 6,000 supermarket by April. So we're in Whole Food, we're in Sprout, we are in Albertson Safeway, and we're launching with Kroger in April. And we have on the West Coast, we're doing a test with Target, and we are talking to a division in Costco possibly right now to launch Konscious on East Coast in Eastern Canada. So, and if it's successful, we'll go in the US. And I like Costco because Costco, we do a lot of demo, and the product needs to be demo. Like, people say, oh, I'm not sure I would, but once you try it, you say, wow, this is as good as fresh. Why would I have that in my food?
Well, I think that's a really important point of differentiation. So it isn't just that you've taken something and made it plant-based. It's that nothing really exists. You can't have frozen sushi if it's fish.
We don't.
So
no, the question, you see, our sushi, Elizabeth, there's 3 ways you can defrost it. So you can defrost it in your lunch bag, and it's ready by lunchtime. It's a ready-to-eat item. We have a patent pending packaging that It's all little round, and then you put it in hot water, lukewarm water for 8 minutes, and it's ready to eat. Or you can take it out of package and microwave 1 minute, it's ready to eat. You can't do that with fish because you will have food poisoning. You don't leave fish at room temperature. It's dangerous. You don't put it in hot water. It's dangerous. So that's the beauty of plant-based, is that we can use know-how. We control the water activity. We control the pH, and you could leave it out at room temperature for hours, and it's safe.
So this is a white space in many areas. A white space because of the label. It's plant-based and cleaner. And it is cleaner, folks. If you think that fish is healthy, just know that you're most likely getting commercial fish because the oceans are completely depleted. I talked about that on my last podcast. And commercial fish swimming around in its own feces, poisoning the ground beneath it, concentrated fish excretion coming in the same place, and they just circle around, and then all the growth hormones and mercury in the water, et cetera. So you've got a cleaner label for the actual product, and then you have the usability, which currently doesn't exist for fish. So this is sort of like, okay, home run from my perspective. Okay, I want to encourage everyone, if you can't get to Expo West, you get to one of those grocery stores, Albertsons, Kroger, Sprouts, just get there because it is a really good
And
product.
we have a program, Elizabeth, with the exclusive supplier with Whole Food in their fresh sushi counter. So they have sushi roll with the brand Conscious on it that you can get at their fresh sushi counter.
Great, everybody. Head on over to Whole Foods. Okay, as we kind of wrap up here, I wonder if you have, we'll talk about predictions in just a second, but I wondered if you had any comments on, the bubble that burst a little bit. It's not, that doesn't make it a fad. It is a long-term trend, but it did have an over-exaggeration and then a correction. And I wondered if you had anything to comment on, and that can be anything from advice you want to give entrepreneurs or your sentiment about how the business went up and how it went down, just anything you'd like to comment about where we are today.
Well, I think, like I mentioned, the bubble bust of the 2000. I think having too much money is the same thing as not having enough money.
Agreed.
And so we had people who were thrown like 20 million, 15 million, 25 million, and they spend like there was no tomorrow. And marketing, that I have to say that every week I have a company who approach us who want to merge or ask us to buy them. One company 2 weeks ago or a month ago, they had raised 20 million and they're doing 30,000 in sales per month. I'm sorry, but that's it. That is not, and especially not a lot of technology involved, and the product was okay. But so I think the big lesson over here is I think in this there was too many product launch at the same time. And the plant-based has a lot of dreamer, and I'm a dreamer too, and it's great to dream, but you have to have a sense of reality that at the end of the day, you're going to need to make a profit. Your margin has to be good, and you need a business sense and surround yourself with strong people that will make a business case. Plant-based or no plant-based, you need to survive long term. And so you need to have a business sense. And one of the famous company in Canada that raised 50 million, 750 million in valuation, they approached me to be the CEO before I started Conscious. And it was called A Very Good Butcher. And I look at the owner and I said, you're selling 4 sausages for $9. It's too expensive. There's no market. And by the way, there's 3 other companies in the US who do the same thing that are cheaper. So what is your difference? And they got hype in the stock market. Oh, we're going to spend money. At the end of the day, they closed about a year ago. And it's sad because it gives sort of a black eyes to the plant-based investor that says, you know what, it is a fad. I'm not going to invest. And it's very tough to raise money right now. There's very few people who want to invest money in the plant-based. So lesson learned. I think too many companies, too much money thrown at them, and not enough company that had strong foundation in business to make it a success.
Yeah, I say this all the time. I mean, I also would add, not enough food expertise, and
Yes,
definitely not enough business expertise. And add to that, not enough finance investment expertise. So there's
yes,
business expertise, but then there's also finance expertise and just spending like drunken sailors. And so,
yes.
that
Yep.
that won't work long term. Maybe we should talk about long term. I don't know if you feel comfortable making predictions, but what do you think? Let's say three years out, and let's say 7 years out.
I think only the strongest will survive.
Mhm.
I think there's going to be probably some consolidation in the marketplace. Uh, there's no doubt in my mind that my goal with Conscious is that, and we're not any more expensive than traditional seafood. So
Oh,
that's
that's great.
that is the first box for me to tick, because to ask the customer to pay 40% more, and that in some case I understand it's the nature of the volume and the subsidy, but really the goal is should be at parity with traditional protein, and then you deliver on better nutrition, better sustainability, better. So for the consumer, once you take the money out, that it's not any more expensive. And well, why wouldn't you try it if it's good? You do it and you try it and demo, etc. Everybody would buy an electric car if it was the same price right now. The only reason it's more expensive, and people have to rationalize, well, and now you start having electric car that can go 800 miles.
Yeah.
300 miles is kind of stretching. 600. So I think the industry is evolving, and there's going to be a company like Conscious that's going to come, and right away you take the price out of the equation. It's not any more expensive. Well, that makes it easier to enter to have an entry in the level. And I think bringing innovation, convenience, sustainability. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to say the younger population, they're voting with their mouth right now.
Yeah.
And they want diversity, and they want quality. And I think that's company like us, Conscious, are delivering that.
It's wonderful. I work in the public markets. I have a company called VegTech Invest, and we invest in the plant-based companies in the public markets. And one of the reasons that we do that is because I think it's going to take really skilled teams that know the food industry. It's going to take distribution channels that already exist.
Yeah.
It's going to take R&D dollars, R&D know-how, and ad budgets. So I think you need these things that startups can't do. And hopefully VCs are being more careful. It's not just the entrepreneur, it's the VCs as well. Hopefully they're being more careful and looking at, what kind of expertise does this person have in food, let's say, or in business. A lot of founders didn't have that. So I think it's going to happen. And I do think it's going to happen with some of the larger companies wanting those sustainability numbers. And so putting more into R&D for innovation in this sector.
I'm a strong believer in R&D.
Yeah, of course.
R&D.
Of course.
If it's not broken, you still have to fix it. That's the way I look at it.
I like that. As I have a heart out, and I know you do too. So 3 exit questions, but really just 1 sentence each. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
I wish I would. I've learned a little bit more about social media 10 years ago, because now the whole marketing is about social media, and it's a world that I don't have a Facebook account. I don't follow TikTok, so I need to hire younger people to help me, because you have to adapt. And I wish I knew 10 years ago that this was going to be the future, and commercializing your product. And now we're kind of like, okay, how do we learn that? And we need to learn very quickly, because it doesn't matter how good your product is, Elizabeth. If people don't know about it, you're not going to sell it. And so it's about awareness. How do you bring awareness? And as somebody told me the other day, says your customer have like 3 seconds, 1 second to look at your brand right now, and what differentiates you from another brand. So.
I think, again, I think Beyond Meat did a great job there, really.
Yes.
They're of course struggling now. I mean, who isn't? But that brand is really strong. So, I'd like to see more companies go the path of Beyond and have that kind of strength, but there's no easy road. That's for sure. Okay. My last two extra questions. What do you if you're having a bad day, what do you tell yourself to get yourself back in the groove?
It could be worse.
I like that. It could be worse. Okay. And it can
Because
always be
I
worse.
feel very privileged in my life. I was a chef, and sometimes my wife and I go and travel to Paris and go to a nice restaurant. And I said, there's nothing wrong. I have nothing wrong working in the back, but I really like being sitting in the front,
Yeah.
and enjoying the moment. So, you always, when I traveled by backpack, when I was in Bolivia, that year they had 5,000% inflation.
Inflation.
So we have 2, 3, 4%. We think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? The interest rate. The interest rate was at 22% in 1982.
Yeah.
So it's all relative, really.
Yes.
So when you have a bad day, you wake up, shake yourself. It could be a lot worse, and it's a lot worse for most people.
Yeah, I like to say, stop complaining. Nose to the grindstone, eyes to the sky.
Yeah, and enjoy the moment.
Yes. So well said. Okay, my very last question for you. You are running around. It's a busy day. You don't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
I'm kind of like to have always a trail mix, nuts in my thing, and I love my little pleasure is dark chocolate. 70% dark chocolate. But I have to say, lately, my perfect snack is I grab an onigiri that we make, and I put it in a microwave for 1 minute. It's on the go. You eat it. It's fantastic. My daughter goes to university in Chicago, and she said, "Dad, thank you so much. It's fantastic for me because you're studying, And I always do product looking at. My daughter was one of the customers. I said, which product would fit her lifestyle? You're busy, you're studying, you're kind of like go on the go. So onigiri, perfect one. My favorite one is the kale gomai.
Kale gomai. Okay, this is going to be my new go-to snack. I'm going to find it in Whole Foods, I think.
Yes.
You told me I can go to Whole Foods.
Sprout. We're trying to convince Whole Foods. Sprout has the kale gomai.
Okay, I'm going to Sprouts. I can't wait. Yves, don't go anywhere. You stay here. Everybody else, I will see you again on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube next week. Yves, thanks so much for being here. Stay put.
It's a great pleasure. It's really nice to talk to you.
You as well.
Enjoyed.
Bye, everybody. See you next week. Stay put.